The producers behind the Fox show Empire have decided to remove Jussie Smollett's character from the final 2 episodes of the current season. This, of course, in the wake of accusations that he paid 2 men $3,500 to stage what he claimed was a racist and an anti-gay attack on him in late January. In their statement, the producers call the allegations, quote, very disturbing and say they're placing their trust in the legal system as the process plays out. The 2 men have been cooperating with authorities. Joining me now is Dr. Cornel West, professor at Princeton and Harvard as well. Dr. West, thanks for being with us. First of all, do you believe the allegation that Jussie Smollett staged this attack and filed a false report? Or at this point, where are you on this?
Well, it's a good question, though. I mean, I like to stay in contact with the evidence and hope he has a fair trial, but it looks as if there's evidence that for some reason he came up with this hoax, but we'll have to see. You know, he's a very talented actor, and the sad thing is that you know, we lose sight of the human beings who are the genuine victims of gay brothers, black folk, brown, red, yellow, and others. And this is true even in the R. Kelly case. That's so sad. You know, it's the children, it's the precious and priceless black girls that we need to focus on. I mean, his genius is undeniable. His music has enriched my life, but he has to be accountable. That kind of activity is gangster activity, it's thuggish activity. He has to be accountable. There's a long history of this, though, Brother Anderson. No, you got Martin Heidegger's philosophical genius and a Nazi, Ezra Pound, lyrical genius in poetry, but a fascist. How do we keep track of the art which still affects us, and then the very ugly and vicious and malicious activity that's too often that goes hand in hand with genius? But I think R. Kelly needs a fair trial too. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And Robert Kraft, we can go on and on. The brothers are just out of control of all colors, I can tell you that. All we brothers need to be rendered in some way accountable. But go right ahead.
Well, a spokesman for the NAACP said that the allegations against Smollett should not be used as a smokescreen to obscure real racism in the United States. How concerned are you about that and people using this as kind of a reason to doubt claims of actual hate crimes?
No, I think the NAACP hits the nail on the head. There's no doubt about it. But think about this, though, Brother Anderson, that war crimes, Wall Street crimes, white-collar crimes, I wish that we focus as much on those crimes as we do on these particular hoaxes, seemingly, and even the crimes on the street. If we're going to have a rule of law, it's got to be a rule of law for everybody. We've all got to be accountable. But see, I come out of the legacy of Jerusalem that says I always look for the criminals at the top, and then I keep track of the criminals in the middle and below. Because we need to be concerned with criminality, no matter what, as well as the criminality inside of ourselves. But the ones at the top oftentimes are the most dangerous. And they're the ones who very rarely get this kind of focus, this kind of highlight, this kind of accountability that people are calling for.
Well, that's certainly true. The superintendent, it was interesting for the Chicago police yesterday, talked about how, as a black man, he was left asking why would anyone, especially an African-American man, use the symbolism of a noose to make false accusation if that is in fact what happened.
Yeah. You know, I also want to keep in mind that I think Brother Smollett has a drug problem, and so he might not be in full control. He still has to be accountable, but he might not be in full control. R. Kelly in the same way. You think of his precious mother, Joanne, taking him to the church and teaching him music. He couldn't read, he couldn't write, but produces this magnificent music. Lula, his first girlfriend, who dies drowning in his eyes. The wounds are so deep, but the fundamental question always is, will you be a wounded herder or be a wounded healer? And if you're wounded, as is the case, it seems to me, with Smollett, as is the case with R. Kelly, might be the case with Robert Kraft, I don't know his life, but the question is, whatever wounds you have, will you choose to be a healer or will you choose to be a herder? And if your wounds are simply going to be those that produce wound, it's a choice. And if you're wounding others, especially precious girls and black girls, I mean, my God, you know, the value of life in this society is one in which our precious black sisters, especially under 15, are always overlooked, always downplayed. And so when you engage in that kind of violation, oh my God, this is sinful, capital S, if I can use a Christian category on corporate media here tonight. It's wrong. It's just immoral, though, brother.
It's interesting, though, you talk about choice. I mean, people are sometimes victims of their circumstance, but there are plenty of people who would have every reason to, be angry to do something wrong, and yet they make a choice of how they want to live their life. Despite where they, what they have experienced as children or what they have experienced at some point in their life, they make a choice about the path that they want to walk. And I think it's an important point that that is a choice one can make.
And that is precisely the lesson that R. Kelly heard from his magnificent teacher, Lena McClin at Kenwood High School, who was a niece of Thomas Dorsey, who wrote Precious Lord, Martin Luther King Jr.'s favorite song. And what did she tell R. Kelly? You have been wounded. You grew up in Ida B. Wells' project. You grew up hated. You grew up haunted. You grew up harassed. You can bounce back. But in bouncing back, you not only create beautiful music, but you got to treat human beings right. The women, the men, the elders, the babies. And R. Kelly has this genius on the one hand and thuggish proclivity on the other, like all of us, and it seemed to allow the thuggish proclivity, if the evidence is what it is, and he's going to have to pay, you got to reap what you sow. But even he can bounce back in prison, no, brother. He can bounce back in prison. No
There's redemption. Redemption is possible for anybody.
Bounce back is always a possibility. That's exactly right.
Dr. Cornel West, appreciate your time. Thank you very much. I want to check in with